I was scrolling through Reddit the other day when I came across this user's thread. Apparently, this was the line to get inside Costco's brand new warehouse in Okinawa, Japan last year. The Reddit user said they waited 5 hours just to get inside, and that was after the warehouse opened 3 hours earlier than originally planned. But the store opening itself never should have happened. See, Japan is essentially a graveyard for foreign big box retailers. The British supermarket powerhouse Tesco only lasted 9 years, and France's hypermarket pioneer Carrefour tapped out after 5. Even Walmart, the biggest retailer on the planet, couldn't crack Japan's impossible market. As a Costco member myself, I am very well acquainted with the bulk buying experience that Costco offers. And I gotta be honest, on paper, Costco's success in Japan doesn't make sense. How did a retailer that's famous for selling you extra large quantities of everything win over consumers in some of the smallest dwelling spaces on the planet? I had to learn and unlearn a lot about how Costco does its business. And what I realized is that Costco's success in Japan is a masterclass for any brand looking to break into that specific market. Because the thing is, Costco's playbook for success really could have gone either way. And if anything, it should have been the first retail giant to fall. Okay, so I want to show you this map of Japan's population density. These red, pink, and orange spots represent the areas where the majority of the population lives. And as you can see, there aren't that many of them compared to these blue and green areas, where the least amount of people live. That's because mountains occupy 80% of Japan's landmass, which makes urban space extremely limited. And that's why when you Google Costco Japan, you'll come across some that are multi-story, and these funky looking escalators that transport carts between floors. When Costco was first eyeing the Japanese market back in the 1990s, it was fresh off of establishing itself in 2 other key Asian markets, Taiwan and South Korea, that also came with their fair share of spatial challenges. But Japan came with even more challenges, like a spiraling financial crisis and a retail economy that favored mom and pop shops. See, at the time, Japan had this law called, I always botch this, dahi tenho, spelled like this. And this quite literally translates to large-scale retail store law. And it required large-scale retailers like Costco to go through consultations with neighboring mom and pop shops, and in many cases accept restrictions on opening store hours or mandatory closure dates to limit competition. Despite that, Costco's decision to enter the Japanese market in the 1990s was ideal for a few reasons.
Things from Costco's side, they had ramped up to be prepared to go into, at the time, the second biggest economy in the world by trialing in Taiwan and South Korea.
By the way, this is Chung Fan. He's the founder of the Sat Post newsletter, and he wrote this one on how Costco won in Japan. So obviously, I called him up to learn more.
And then from Japan's side, they were ready to try new business models because the economy was not in the best place.
And that's not all. Costco had also successfully established a local partnership with a Japanese land developer called Torius, a company that was ready to take the risk and break some of Japan's age-old real estate rules in the interest of building a 62.5-acre mall, the first American-style mall ever to be in Japan. Torius convinced the Japanese government to let it turn rice fields into the retail space it needed for the project. And thanks to pressure from the US, that dahi tenho law was starting to become more relaxed. In 1999, Torius opened its mega mall with Costco at the forefront. And according to the LA Times, it was far and away the biggest attention grabber among customers. If you're not familiar with Costco's retail model, let me quickly break it down for you. Costco is known for cutting out the middleman and going directly to suppliers in order to pass on wholesale prices to its customers. But in Japan, achieving that structure proved incredibly challenging. Because here's the thing, there are layers and layers and layers of these middlemen in Japan, and they are heavily involved in determining the flow of goods.
I mean, it wasn't overnight that they were able to substitute out all of the middlemen. Like, they had to work with a lot of different organizations, but once they had established their own supply chain, it took them a decade to do that. They've been able to basically double the pace of openings in the 15 years since.
Within its first decade in Japan, Costco opened another 8 stores and now operates 37 warehouses and counting. But in paving its own path to cracking Japan's impossible retail market, the regulatory shifts that had swung the door open for Costco did the same for other foreign big box retailers. By the way, our team is kind of obsessed with Costco, if you couldn't already tell. To be fair, if you don't subscribe to our daily newsletter, then you might have missed our story on how Costco created a cult following by breaking every rule of retail. That was one of our feature stories a few years back, And we're still going strong, telling in-depth business breakdowns just like this one, plus all the daily business news you need to know. Subscribe by using the QR code on the screen, or you can check the link in the description for everything I just mentioned straight to your inbox. With that large-scale retail store law that I can't pronounce completely abolished by the year 2000, Japan was primed for a retail invasion by Tesco, Carrefour, and Walmart. And that last one is obviously huge. Unlike Costco, Walmart chose to enter the Japanese market in a completely different way. Instead of maintaining its outward image as Walmart, the corporation invested in the local supermarket chain Seiyu, effectively turning Seiyu stores into Japanese Walmarts with the same everyday low prices it's known for in the US. How does it get such low prices? Well, Walmart's retail model operates a little differently than Costco's. It uses the hub and spoke system, meaning goods are centralized at a hub, in this case, Walmart distribution centers, and then flow to multiple spokes, aka Walmart locations. And basically what that means is that Walmart becomes its own middleman. Compared to Costco, which, like I mentioned earlier, cuts out the middleman entirely so that goods can flow directly from the supplier to its store shelves in bulk quantities. But here's where they really differ. Walmart's profits come primarily from its retail sales, whereas Costco's come from membership fees. In other words, Walmart needs its stores to sell a lot of goods to help the company meet its bottom line. And in the US and other parts of the world, that's never really been an issue. But in Japan, the model completely backfired. See, Walmart came to Japan assuming it could replace those layers and layers of middlemen with its own logistics, negotiate rock bottom prices with suppliers, and then work its everyday low prices magic into Seiyu stores. Instead, Japan's complex web of distributors thwarted Walmart's efforts to wring lower prices from suppliers. But Walmart had a bigger issue it didn't account for. The Japanese consumer has extremely high expectations. They interpret low prices to mean low quality.
And not to say that people in Japan don't want a good deal. They just don't want it framed like that. Like, hey, come here for everyday low prices.
By 2008, Walmart bought the remaining stake in Seiyu, but Seiyu was losing money. It held out for 12 more years before selling a majority stake in the company in 2020, and then sold the chain for $2.5 billion in 2025. So yeah, Walmart is now officially checked out of Japan. All things considered, 23 years is not a bad run in that market. Like I mentioned earlier, Tesco and Carrefour spent fewer years in Japan combined. One of Tesco's biggest mistakes was similar to Walmart's. It acquired a chain of local convenience stores, but centralized decision-making, which made it very hard to react quickly to local needs. Carrefour, on the other hand, entered the market without a local partner, but it chose to stock more local Japanese goods than French ones, which tanked its appeal as a foreign retailer in the market. By the way, Costco, Walmart, Tesco, and Carrefour all entered the Japanese market within just a few years of each other. So it's not like the retail climate was all that different. And that makes Costco's staying power even more impressive. It's now on track to operate more than 60 warehouses in Japan by 2030. So how exactly did Costco beat out the competition? Well, like I mentioned earlier, that land developer partnership with Torius was obviously huge. But here are 3 more ways it succeeded. Number 1, tackling the middlemen. Costco slowly tackled Japan's network of middlemen and built the relationships it needed with suppliers to give Japanese consumers the level of quality they expected. According to the book, The Joys of Costco, 30% of Costco Japan's sales are fresh food, compared to America's 15% of sales, and 65% of its fresh Japanese food is sourced locally, like these mouth-watering sushi trays. Number 2, prioritizing American products. Costco first opened with more than 90% of its inventory locally sourced. But today, you can find a lot more American products on its shelves, including its iconic Kirkland brand, which does $86 billion in annual sales. One section that particularly shines is the bakery. And number 3, brand identity. For the entire time it's been in Japan, Costco has stayed true to itself and its wholesale model. Unlike Walmart and Tesco, it didn't enter Japan as anything other than Costco. And something kind of remarkable happened. Japanese consumers adapted their shopping habits to embrace bulk buying.
If you live in a 400 square foot apartment in Tokyo, you're not gonna want a giant tub of mayo, right? Or you might want it, but it'd be easier for you to get half that giant tub with your buddy. And that's kind of the idea. There's a lot of share shopping. So that's why they have more members per warehouse. They specifically will break out the products into more single serve or individual serve things so that 2 people, like friends shopping there, can split effectively what they're buying.
Whether or not you're a Costco member, you might have heard through the grapevine that Costco has recently been cracking down on its membership sharing. And when that companion limit was first introduced during the pandemic, Japan had an interesting response. Smaller retailers actually opened mini Costcos within their own stores, selling Kirkland brand items for a 10 to 20% markup. And Costco, as Trung writes, was cool with it. Because the reality is, it takes a lot of time, money, and land to build a new Costco warehouse, especially in a country as densely populated as Japan. So having these Costco pop-ups still benefits Costco because it's an extension of an experience only they can create. And in Japan, that experience is what it's all about.
The bulk aspect, which is quite unique in Japan, turned it, as I noted, into what was kind of like a Disneyland trip for a lot of locals. Yeah, very unique market, and Costco came in and they're just themselves. Be yourself, people.
If you liked this business case study, check out my video on how Nescafe cracked Japan's impossible coffee market to become one of the biggest coffee brands in the world. And make sure you check the link in the description to subscribe to our daily newsletter. We've also linked Trung's newsletter there, so you can keep sampling delicious Costco insights. All right, and we'll see you guys in the next one. And if anything, it should have been the first retail giant to fall.